Well, look, Israel at the moment is not really sort of accepting a ceasefire or a humanitarian pause. And the aid coming into Gaza is still, unfortunately, a trickle. But a conference like this one in Paris keeps the pressure up on Israel by bringing a large number of countries and international aid organizations together. And, of course, Israel may relent in the future. Now, if Israel suddenly changes its mind and said, yes, OK, we'll agree to a humanitarian pause, the international community has got to be ready to go in. And this means things like hospital ships. The French have already sent one of their helicopter carriers to the Eastern Mediterranean to be ready to do this. Cyprus has also been talking about opening up a sea lane into Gaza for the delivery of humanitarian supplies. And the United Nations has said that they need immediately $1.2 billion to deal with the most immediate humanitarian problems, including, of course, the treatment of the wounded and the medical supplies. So, in other words, yes, Israel may be being pretty tough today, but I think this meeting in Paris is useful to sort of get the international community funded and ready to go. Immediately, the traffic light goes from red to green.
So we've got more than 50 countries, UN agencies, NGOs, all talking about this. Talking one thing, but getting agreement quite another. Do you think this will work?
Well, progressively, yes. I mean, I think the first thing, of course, is the more troops that Israel puts into Gaza and really begins, the bulk of its operation against Hamas already in Gaza City, the less airstrikes you will see from Israel, and therefore the less destruction of civilian property, and hopefully, therefore, a reduction in this terrible loss of civilian life. Israel can't really have airstrikes which could hit its own forces. So that may alleviate the situation somewhat, although, of course, let's be realistic, Robin, as long as you've got military operations going on, civilians will get caught in the crossfire, but hopefully not quite to the extent that we've seen in recent times. Secondly, Israel is relenting a little bit when it comes to the pressure. For instance, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that it would contemplate short pauses to allow more relief trucks in through the Rafah crossing from Egypt. Yesterday, the Israelis said that they would stop bombing roads because, of course, if they're asking people to leave northern Gaza to go to southern Gaza, they can't really then start bombing the roads and the access routes, which would make it impossible for people to leave. So I think the Israelis are mindful of the fact that they can't afford to sort of forfeit every sympathy from the international community, particularly the sympathy that they undoubtedly had after they suffered the 1,400 lives lost on October the 7th.
So short-term aid and immediate financing, the goal of this meeting. How important is it, though, to start having conversations now about what will happen in Gaza in the future?
Well, yes. I mean, first of all, and think of Ukraine as well, you've got to start thinking about reconstruction. According to the United Nations, over 200,000 houses have been destroyed. Over 1.5 million people in Gaza out of a population of 2.3 million have been displaced. So you've got to start already thinking about how are we going to be able to reconstruct the place. Secondly, it's quite clear that there will have to be some kind of a civilian administration on an interim basis once the fighting is over. Hamas has been the government, for better or for worse. And if Hamas is indeed eliminated, then some kind of administration has to go in. Israel has said that it will be in occupation initially. That's obvious because it's already there. But the Israelis know from their experience, Robin, before 2005 when they left the place, that they are a very unwelcome occupier. The Palestinians will not tolerate being under Israeli rule. So Israel has got to think of who it hands over to very quickly. The Palestinian Authority, is that up to the job? It did rule Gaza before 2005. An Arab peacekeeping force, a UN peacekeeping force. There are a lot of options on the table, but the United States with Secretary Blinken is working this issue in the region and internationally, so that at least there are some sort of proposals. But the key thing is for the Israelis to get out of Gaza as quickly as possible. But what they cannot do is try to evict all of the Palestinians into Egypt to solve the problem that way. Egypt, Jordan won't take those Palestinians, so Gaza will remain a Palestinian entity. The question is who is going to rule it, and to what extent will that rule satisfy Israel's existential security concerns?
Jamie, great to talk to you today. Thank you for joining us. That's Jamie Shea from the think tank Friends of Europe.